Greetings, magical mages, spiritual sages, all of my listeners out there. I welcome you to Age of the Mage, and this is podcast number 15. And today we're just going to do a little bit of review quickly about podcast episode 14, where we talked about we reviewed the fact that we're in this timeline division right now in our world. And we discussed a little bit about aligning with the things we want as individuals: freedom, truth, personal sovereignty, these types of things, and resonating to those ourselves to help us find our place and merge onto the timeline, the more major timeline that we'd like to see unfold for the human race. And then the second part of that podcast, we talked about the importance of the individual, and that sometimes we discount ourselves and we think that, oh, what can I do? I'm just one person and there's so much going on in the world and I'm not in a position to tackle these things. I don't hold a public office, or I don't have a large crowd following me, whatever the case may be. Sometimes we get discouraged and we just don't think we have a lot of personal power that can affect the world. I think we're all aware we can affect our own realities and some of our small spaces around us, but we forget that we actually can bring significant change into the world by starting with those personal areas. So we moved on to the idea that a good starting point would be to establish a filter. In other words, a something that you can program or request will filter out darkness, deception, antagonism, resistance, things that you don't like, whatever your particular list is. I think that one thing we talked about was to focus on getting better discernment, and that our world is kind of full right now of the information wars going on, like so many narratives and so many stories and so many versions of things that it's hard to sort and sift through all this and really know what's the truth. And many of you, like I know you must share this interest with me, and you kind of like to dig for truth, and you want to get to the bottom of things, and not live based on a story that someone else made up and is trying to manipulate you with. So I think we share this. And yet, even if we do like to do these things, and even if we do like to do the deep dives and we're not afraid of getting down in the nitty gritty and seeing what is probably closer to the truth, it's still challenging, isn't it? There are still so many sources and so many voices, and we need more than ever, as spiritual leaders that we're going to become and magical practitioners who have so much to offer to our families and our friends and the world itself, we need to be kind of at the forefront. We need to, maybe, if we could be at the leading edge of some of these ideas, then we could help others. So the idea that I'm kind of circling around right now is this ability to get our discernment really up to par, really refine it and be able to trust our discernment. And many of you are already so good at this, and you're so naturally intuitive, and you have been relying on the balance of intuition and perception and discernment so long that you're already doing very well. But others of us are struggling with how to discern the truth from lies, and what do we do? So one of the main things I thought that the filter could have in it, among other things, would be, if we could set up filters around us in a magical way or spiritual way to help us with this discernment. And I think the best thing to do would be to approach this filter like a screen, where you request what you want to be a part of the screen. And you say, hey, filter, I need you to work so that lies just don't make it through. Major deception just doesn't get through. And other negativity. Now, this is a filter. I kind of see a filter as something that is protecting you from external influences. Now, when I say external, they could be internal in the sense that they might be an interdimensional being or an entity that can directly go into your mind with thoughts or feelings. So, but it isn't coming from you. So when I say external, I mean anything that's not coming from you. It's coming from another source. Apologize, you might hear my dog bark off and on. She's restless tonight, so I will try not to let that happen, but it might happen. Anyway, so we have external influences, and a filter, I see that as something that we set up in order to define our boundary space. And we get that right. That's part of our personal sovereignty. And one thing we addressed in the last podcast was, hey, if we can't start right now defining our own personal space and personal sovereignty and getting that figured out, how are we going to align with an entire timeline where that is integral and that's central? That's a major part of the timeline. So the more we align with this and get comfortable with this and are able to do it in our small, controlled personal space, the better we are going to be able to recognize it when we move into larger arenas, and we're going to resonate more and more strongly with it when it's a timeline. So it's very important, and I know many of you are very good at this. I have not always been very good at this. I do work a lot with boundaries because I can be almost boundaryless at times, and that's not the way we want to be. All right, so let's look at this idea of a filter. Many of you are magically inclined, and you have a great deal of practice behind you, and some of you are very, very good at already setting up etheric constructs and thought forms and building these things. So let's hit that idea first. Now, for those who may not be as familiar with that, but would like to construct your own filter based on your thoughts and how you see it, this will be good for you too. And we're going to keep it very simple. So there are very complex ways that this can be done, but for today's podcast, we're going to just make it accessible to anyone who wants to give it a try. And basically what we're going to do is we are going to allow ourselves to really value our imagination. So a lot of times out in the world, among people who do not believe in the other realms, the invisible realms and the mysteries that are there, and they don't believe in the fact that we can create our own reality, and maybe how powerful thoughts are and emotions are and how they play out in creating reality. For those people, imagination, they kind of downplay that too, like, right? They'll just tell you something like, that must just be your imagination. And we even say that to ourselves. We might even find ourselves in the middle of a spiritual or a magical experience, and we'll hear ourselves say, oh, it's just your imagination. All right, so we have a habit perhaps, and culturally we're encouraged to kind of downplay our imagination and not give it as much credit as it deserves, because in reality, we're going to be working a lot as the podcasts go on with our imaginations. Between emotion and imagination and inspiration, that's where all magic can be created. That's all you need, those three things, right? So it's very important. It's crucial. It's where things are born. It's the crucible of many of your future realities are they stem from your imagination. So it's not anything to be downplayed at all. It's completely reverse of that. So while some of this exercise might feel to you like, how can this be really doing anything? This is just me imagining things. No, this is the seeds. This is the beginning of the building that you're going to create. So it's not a small thing. And so for this etheric construct, I'd like each of you to just take a minute, and when I say the word filter, when I say the word screen, when I say the word boundary, fences, walls, when I say these words, your brain is going to conjure up ideas. Now, if you were to say, hey, I'm going to create this type of construct around myself, and what the purpose I want this to do is I want this to kind of guard my personal space. I don't want every little thing being able to penetrate into my personal space. That's what we're working towards. So some of you will imagine it being fabric, being a very soft fabric. Some of you will feel like it's organic. It's something breathing and it's something that's going to grow over time with you. Some of you will feel that it's a bubble, or that it is a wall, or that it's a screen. But it does need to surround you. So it needs to be in the shape of a sphere so that you can be completely inside your whole body and you can be protected, and it should be a larger than your body so that some of your astral, etheric, emotional, and physical, spiritual bodies can actually expand into that space as well. So a pretty good sized sphere around you. And just have a moment, let your imagination go wild. What does that sphere look like in your case? What's it made out of? Just imagine it. There's nothing more than, we're not doing anything fancy here. It's just an imagination exercise. All right, so get that idea about what is this filter you're going to create today. What's it going to be made out of? What's it going to look like? Is it going to be colorless? Is it going to be clear? Is it going to be metal? Is it going to be stone? What does this filter look like to you? Now, you want some things to be able to come through this filter, right? That's why we're not using, wall might be a little bit heavy, because you almost more want it to be like a sieve or a screen or something that you can program to a membrane, something that things can get through that you want. Love, you want light, you want joy, you want inspiration, you want knowledge, you want discernment, you want these things to get through. But you're going to program this sphere and you're going to infuse it with an energy, with instructions. And so the things that you tell it, yes, I want you to be around me. I want you to follow me around. I want you to be with me. I want you to harmonize with my environment. I want you to let all light and love and high vibrational things come through you to me so that I can perceive those things and do with those things as I need to. However, sphere, what I would like you to do is help me by filtering out things that will not benefit me, will not raise my vibrations, in fact, would lower them. Darkness, abuse, lies, hatred, antagonism, resistance. I'd like you to try to filter these for me. And we're going to work together because you're a part of this. Your sphere's a part of you. So you're not going to abandon each other. You're going to work together on this project, and it won't be foolproof right out of the gate, but it can get there, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you in a moment. So you build this sphere and you program it, so to speak, with the things you want it to allow through and the things you want it to block. All right. And I would love it if each of you would incorporate some part of truth into the sphere. I would like us all to be able to discern truth. I think major things are ahead of us. I think things are coming. And I would love us to be, as I said, on the forefront, with the ability to help others say, I feel like this is good. I feel like this way is right. I feel like that person is speaking the truth. People will need our help. And so I think as we develop this discernment and our ability to perceive truth when it's being told to us or when it's being shown to us, it's going to be very critical. So I'd like one of our components that we decide is important to go into this filter to include the truth factor. That would be great. But all the rest, everything's up to you, of course. That's just a suggestion I have because I feel it's so pertinent to our times. All right. So you just play with this for a few minutes. Now, you do not have to spend hours on this. This is not something that should drain you. This should be kind of fun, and it should come very quickly to you, just your first impressions. And if you want to take a few keyword notes, marvelous, because we're going to go deep into journaling in a future time. But for now, just even a few keywords in a notebook that you're keeping just for these types of exercises would be fantastic. So that you can remember, hey, I constructed this sphere. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's right. Mine is a great big kind of a balloon shaped. It's a beautiful royal blue piece of velvet. That's right. Oh, mine is composed of the ethers and space and, whatever. So just so you can remind yourself and get that image back in your mind quickly. All right. And that's kind of all there is to it. You take a few moments to think about what you want that sphere to do, what you want that filter to do for you. And just, I know you might feel silly, but say it, tell it. And if you can voice this out loud, it is the best. So you can wait for a time when you can actually speak out loud and you have some privacy. If that's just impossible because you're in a dorm room or something where there's always someone around, go for a whisper, just something, because the voice holds a great deal of magic. And the sounds, the vibration of the voice and the tones, and it's not by accident that we utter certain calls and certain tones when we do rituals. So your voice and your word will infuse this sphere with power that, yes, you can do a multitude of things in your mind with telepathically with no words at all, of course. But this will give this a little extra boost. All right. So speak to this sphere. In fact, if you want to name it, you go right ahead and name it. Magical name, anything that appeals to you. This could even be, if you would like, this could even be beings of, let's say you really feel close to um, leopards or large cats. You might want to call in the spirit of the large cat and have her or him surround you and bring large cats to encircle you. So you, again, see, your imagination, this is limitless. And whatever occurs to you, that's the thing to use. All right. So that's the filter part. Now, when I say it will get stronger and stronger, what happens with thought forms in the traditions of magic, how they are, how we perceive them is that the more energy you repeatedly give them, the more real they become in that etheric sphere. Now, this is very similar to, I know most of you are familiar with the law of attraction, where our thoughts go, where our emotions go, what we dwell on, whether it's accidental or whether it's on purpose, those things come to us, don't they? They come into our reality. So this little imagination exercise needs to be practiced just briefly a few times a day. You just say, hey, oh, I got to get that sphere up again, don't I? Oh, okay. I felt a whole bunch of attack energy coming through. Oh, man, I just felt slammed with a bunch of dark, yucky stuff, or whatever the case may be. Say, oh, I just don't think I charged my sphere up enough, and I need some extra help right now. Okay, so I know it might feel a little silly, but it works. And over time, that filter will get so strong, it's so real, that you will be amazed at its power. And now's the time to start building it. If you don't have one already, I know many of you probably do, but if you don't have one already, now's the time. We need to get going. And I'm even talking to myself here. This has got to get done. Now, for those of you who do not feel comfortable creating your own etheric construct, by all means, this can be requested as well. You can ask the guides, the divinity you believe in, angels, helpers that you may be very close to, extraterrestrial helpers, family, species. You can ask for this to be created for you. If that is a more comfortable feeling, by all means use that. By all means. But please ask, if you're going to go that direction and not take the direct responsibility for building this, please ask those that will place this guard and protection around you, please tell them what you'd like it to do. Because you see, they cannot interfere with your free will. And if you don't ask specifically what you would like the guardian protection to do for you, they probably can't do much. They need your specific instructions. So while it's slightly different, and you may not be creating this out of your own imagination and your own work, while you're calling it in from those you trust to help you, you still need to be very specific in your mind, in your request, on what you want this protection to do. So first is this filter, this boundary, so that you get some relief and some protection from outside influences. Remember, they come across the internet. There's no difference to energy. Energy doesn't care whether it is being thought at you from across the world, or whether that's coming through a screen or a telephone or a text message or a real life person walking into your space. Energy doesn't care about that. It's all getting transmitted to you. So this sphere, you need to, as time goes on, you will come up with more things that you will program it with, and you'll be able to say, oh, I completely forgot, would you protect me when I'm sitting at my desk and I'm online and I'm on social media and think, would you stand by me? Let's make sure we have our healthy filters up for even that kind of work, because we are all getting bombarded with external influences all the time. And of course, many, many, many of those are wonderful, wonderful influences, and we want them in our lives. We want connection. But why bother with the negatives if we don't have to, right? So because we're gaining strength, if we don't have negatives draining us, we're going to get stronger and healthier and can do more for ourselves and for others the stronger we get. It's a win-win. All right, now let's look at the other side. So if we just kind of strengthen, imagine, and play with that etheric boundary and that filter a little bit each day, you'll even be inspired as to what elements it may inspire you to add. And it will get more real over time, and it will get more effective over time. All right, so now let's go to the other end of the spectrum we talked about briefly in the last podcast, and that is what to do from the inside out. All right, so now you have this personal space. We're all aware of this. We all have an aura, and we all have auras that are very different to each of us and reflect who we are and reflect what we're going through emotionally or spiritually or mentally. And these auras extend out from our bodies, various distances according to what we're going through at the time, or maybe our personal development. This distance and this reach of the aura that surrounds us, our personal space, varies from time to time and from person to person. Now we can do something to help kind of work in harmony with this filter idea, and that is we can fill our personal space from the inside of us and push those wonderful positive things out into our space. Okay. This is our responsibility now. So the first thing we built was a direct kind of a boundary between us and what wants to come in at us. This one is what we can do. How can we fill up our personal space inside that boundary? How can we, and what can we do to help ourselves feel better, be more productive, be more successful, be healthier, whatever we are desiring? All right, we have to find those principles inside of ourselves. And when we grab hold of something that makes you feel happy and makes you feel good, just take a second and imagine it going out of you. Imagine it going through whatever part of your body just wants to leak out, and imagine it filling up this bubble around you, this personal space. Imagine it even bumping into this filter you've created. All right, the more we do this, the better we get at it. We improve our skill. Now, some of us maybe are really down in the dumps. Maybe we're just not feeling that happy and joyous and bubbly about very much right now. Some of us are in situations that are difficult, and maybe some of us are in health situations that are very difficult. There's just a myriad of things that could be happening. Well, you just got to find one thing. That's what, I had a real struggle a few years ago, terrible struggle with a depression. And I really had never had experience with this deep, long-lasting depression that I fell into. And it was awful, but it sure taught me a lot. And I went through a time period where I honestly could not find joy or happiness. I could not pull myself out of it. I wasn't laughing. A television show just didn't help. Just, oh my goodness, just nothing could get me over the bump. I couldn't get out. And I just started doing the silliest thing. What I did was every time the most negative, scary cycle of stuff started to come back into my brain and want to take me down with it, I opened a picture book that I kept by my bed that had all the dog breeds in it. I just loved looking at dogs. I love dogs, and I got my mind off. It reprogrammed me. It sounds really simple and really silly almost, that such a small thing is what changed my entire trajectory, but it did. Because what I did is I got to where I didn't allow even a few minutes of going down, down, down. I stopped myself right away and grabbed the book. Now, of course, today I probably would have grabbed my phone with all the images in there and things accessible that way. But you must take control if you are in one of these situations that's negative right now. You must take control at least of one small thing that changes the direction of a negative path and makes you smile. For some reason, it's just something you love to look at. It could be architecture, buildings, clothing. Some people just love dresses, shoes. It could be a cities, travel, sites. It just doesn't matter. It's what just you naturally find yourself scrolling to the next picture. You naturally find yourself just forgetting what the negative thought was. And it clicks. It clicks. It just stops. You all of a sudden have changed your pathway for that few minutes. And this turns out to be life-changing, because as soon as you're just a bit improved, as soon as that vibration is just a bit more raised, another thing will occur to you. Oh, I kind of like that. That kind of cheers me up. So if you find yourself in a position of really kind of dire darkness for whatever reason right now, start there. Start with a tiny thing you can find. And when you are doing this, for example, in my case, if I was looking at puppies and looking at dog breeds and watching dog shows online or whatever it was, I just found myself after 15 minutes, I realized, oh my gosh, I'm not thinking of anything negative anymore. I love these dogs. I love watching this. That's when you grab that feeling. You grab it and you just close your eyes for a minute and you just sense that feeling moving out from you on the inside to you on the outside. Just get it to where it moves from the inside. Even if you can't push it very far, just get it to surround you. And even if you can only hold it there for just a few seconds, that's okay, because that ability is going to grow. That ability is going to get bigger the more you use it. Okay, so it's going to strengthen over time. Now, many of you are probably just not down so low that you're going to struggle as much, and you may have many things that bring you joy, or you are in a state of happiness most of the time. All right, so you don't have to overcome that first problem, but there is a skill involved in learning how to push it from inside yourself to outside yourself. And that's what we're working on now. We're working on filling up a personal space, filling up a bubble that surrounds us with goodness and joy and light. Light that literally comes from yourself. There's a lot of very interesting experiments going on with light right now, and that we actually have light inside our bodies that we can send outwards. This is the practice for that. This is what we're getting to. So when you first do it, just take a minute and see if you can even feel it on the outside of your skin. Just go a little bit out, just a little bit, because it's hard to project, really, unless you've practiced this. It's not always easy to project very far. Just go a little bit out. And then pretty soon you'll go, hey, I can project this 3 or 4 inches out. Oh, I can get this feeling a foot. I can get it 2 feet. I can get it 3 feet away from me and still hold myself in that feeling. It's around me now. I've got this bubble around me. I can feel it. It's golden. It's pink. It's blue. It's whatever. It's wonderful. I can feel it. All right. The better we get at that, the more we actually fill our space with the highest vibrations possible. Because where are all your wonderful feelings coming from, really? They're coming from your highest self. They're coming from your soul talking to you. They're coming from all the beings and loved ones that want to help you, want to love you, want to build you up. They're coming from a place of very high vibration. So when we channel that through us and we allow it to be inside of us and we allow it to come out, it is going to fill the space up around you. And between that and between your filter guarding you from darkness that could damage that protected space, you are going to see amazing results. Amazing. This is the step, these 2 steps together, They only take a couple minutes, a few times a day, whenever it occurs to you, to practice the skill. It sounds easy. It's not that easy. It's kind of like someone describing meditation, and then you go to do it and you go, okay, this is pretty hard. It sounds easy, but don't overwork it. Don't over try it. It literally, if you can hold in your mind for 22 seconds this feeling, that's it. You've manifested it. So imagine 5 seconds, 6 seconds, 8 seconds. Build it up as just hold and be in a certain vibration for just a few seconds. Gradually, those seconds will increase. So it takes practice. And it's easy to talk about. It's easy to envision. It's easy and fun to imagine. You've probably worked through it just listening to me. Perfect. That's perfect. That's all it takes. That's all it takes. Just working through it in your mind while you were listening to me probably produced it. And that's all you're going to do is repeat that. Just repeat it on your own time, with your own elements, with your own inspiration, with your own ideas. And so that is what I wanted to cover in this podcast. We touched on these ideas in the last podcast, but I mentioned that we would go into more detail in this follow-up. So that's what I wanted to do. And this is something I need to do. And it's something that we can feel is so simple that sometimes we overlook it. But as we do these two things in conjunction with each other, and we see the changes occur in our personal space and in our personal feelings, what happens is, without us trying to do anything, without us working, without us exerting ourselves, our energy starts speaking for itself. And you walk in somewhere and you will raise the vibration of where you've just walked into. Your energy will bump into other people. Your energy will bump into space. Your energy will reach out through all time and space and become entangled with others that share your vibration. And lo and behold, synchronicity will start happening. So this has a very far-reaching effect. And as you get better and better at it, and as we get better and more refined and figure ourselves out and figure out what works, what doesn't work, and okay, that's working. Oh, I feel good when I do this. As we go through those exercise and this experience of this, we can look back, maybe after we've done this a few weeks, and see remarkable change. I promise. This is powerful. So even though it sounds simple, this is something we can start doing. And it's within all of our ability to do. As I mentioned in the last video, if you are bedridden, if you are stuck, if you are handicapped, I worked with some handicapped people online once, and we just started building a world for them that they could rely on, and they couldn't take part in those things in 3D world. So this is a beginning step that anyone can do. Anyone can do. No matter what your circumstance is, this is something to try. And that's why it's so critical and it's so important, because it doesn't eliminate anyone. Now, there are details about this that can make it more difficult, obviously. The clearer your mind is, the more you already trust your intuition, the fewer self-sabotaging imprints and implants you have functioning with you right now. Of course, it will be easier. So yes, there's a spectrum of how this will progress and how this will feel to each of you, depending on where your starting point is. But it can be done, and it can be started, and it can make actual significant change in your life. But what's so exciting about it is it can change your surroundings. It can change the people in your life. It can change the effects of your reality. It can change your reality. So we start with the small. We don't overwhelm ourselves, and let's just see what happens. We'll all do it. If you're with me, let's give it a go. Let's give it a try. It's going to take a few weeks, and we're going to check back in on this process. in a few podcasts and see how we're doing, and maybe some new things will come to my mind about it and yours as well, and you can leave comments. Remember to journal in it, and I don't have a lot of time to journal myself. So I just have to use keywords. I have to use small notes or maybe a voice recorder. But if something significant happens, like you've been doing this for 3 days and on your third day you go, oh my goodness, I just felt light leave my body. I seriously did. I felt it. Journal that. That's pretty amazing. Just write that down. Write that down. And so you can trace back with our learning and what's going on for all of us. This is going to be exciting. I thank you so much for joining me today. This is going to be fun, and it's a very it's a good exercise to start for all of us to start with. It's just full of magic, and it doesn't really involve elaborate rituals, and you can tailor it to your needs, and it's the best place for all of us to start. So thank you very much, and I wish you all the very best with this, and we'll check back in with each other very soon. Bye for now.